Hi everyone, welcome to your lesson on classification of soils. Before we get into soils, we're going to do a quick review on weathering and erosion because it's directly related to the formation of soils. So weathering and erosion are actually two different things. Weathering and erosion both break rocks apart, but erosion is what's responsible for moving it from one location to another. There's two different types of weathering. There's mechanical weathering and chemical weathering. A synonym for mechanical is physical. So it's physical weathering and chemical weathering. Very, very similar to physical and chemical changes. So if you think of it like that, you remember that a physical change is when something is changed without changing what that something is made of. Whereas chemical is when you have a change that does change whatever that thing is made of. So when we're talking about weathering, we're talking about rocks. When rocks are broken down without changing what they're made of, it's mechanical weathering. And when a rock is broken down into new compounds, which does change what it's made of, it is called chemical weathering. An example of chemical weathering would be acid rain. So there's several factors that affect weathering. The surface area of the rock exposed. So in other words, if there's more surface area exposed, there's more rock exposed to be able to weather and erode. Chemical composition, so what the rock is made of. Some rock types weather and erode more easily than others. So sedimentary rocks weather quickly because they're really soft and fragile, most of them. The climate of the area the rock is in. So rainforest, for example, there's a ton of different chemical reactions happening in rainforests, and that causes faster weathering and erosion rates. So getting into soils. So eventually all that weathered rock breaks down so much it turns it into soil. So this rock that it comes from is called the parent material because it gave birth to the soil. In other words, the soil started with a certain type of rock. Soil definition is the layer of rock and mineral fragments that support the growth of plants. There are three important characteristics of soil, and they are composition, so what the soil is made of, texture, how it feels, and structure. These three things divide the soil into different horizons, and those horizons are just basically different sections. So, composition of soil, what it's made of. It's broken down into four different parts. Broken down rocks and mineral matter is one part of what soil is made up of. Organic material, also called humus, water, and air. The main source of the organic material, number two, humus, comes from plants and decayed plant matter. So we have broken down rocks and minerals, decayed plant matter, water, and air. That's what soil is made of. And all different soils are made up of different proportions of all those things. So the soil profile. These are the layers, and they're horizontal. So if we were to take a big chunk out from the top of the ground and dig down, well, let's say 6 feet, and we were to pull up that sample in one long tube, we would see different layers. The top layer that we stand on is the topsoil, the organic matter. Underneath the topsoil is the subsoil. That's where mineral matter is. Then underneath that, we have partially weathered parent material. And then underneath that is unweathered parent material. So that's that parent rock that the soil comes from. Here is an actual picture. You have the ground surface, and then we have the A horizon, which is the topsoil, and then the subsoil, and then underneath that we have partially weathered parent material. And not pictured is the fully unweathered parent material, which would be underneath the C horizon. So soil texture, how it feels, is determined by the proportions of the different size particles that are in the soil. There's three main types of soil. Sand, which has the largest particle size, and because it has the largest particle size, it has the biggest pore spaces. So pores, if you look at your hands, you have pores, little holes essentially, and the pores in the soil are to hold water and air. Silt has the medium-sized particles, and so therefore has medium pore spaces. And clay has the smallest particle size with the smallest pore spaces. So in other words, clay, there's not a lot of room to hold water. Sand has the biggest pore spaces, and there is room to hold water. Last part of this is soil erosion, and we're going to go into more detail in a little while. But just touching base on it, rates of soil erosion are faster today than in the past, than ever before. And the reason is because of human development. Humans need homes, roads, more food. Everything humans do affects rates of soil erosion. And rates of soil erosion depend on soil characteristics, the climate, the slope of the land, and the kind of vegetation. So if you think if you have a really steep hill that doesn't have a lot of vegetation, it's going to erode much, much faster than if you have a less steep hill with a ton of vegetation. So the vegetation, or the plants in trees, they serve to root the soil down and hold it together, so that if the land is sloped and it's in a rainy climate, it's going to erode less quickly than if you have a steep slope with no vegetation to hold it together. And you guys are going to do some really awesome investigations with soils. So I hope you have so much fun, and I can't wait. Bye.